Hello, my name is Todd Lip. I'm a Senior Solutions Advisor for Rocket Software. And today we're going to be doing an overview of OMEGAMON Monitor for z/OS, specifically the Enhanced 3270 or E3270 UI. So upon opening the E3270 UI and logging in, your default screen is going to be this events notification tree screen. That can be set to a different screen, but this is going to be where you'll typically start. From this screen, you can get into any of the other OMEGAMON monitors directly if there is an event associated with them. In this particular case, we're going to tab to the z/OS monitor at the top and select the z/OS monitor this way. There's more than one way to get your cursor over the z/OS. You can simply use the tab and put your cursor over the z/OS tab or any other tabs for that matter and hit enter. You can use your mouse and put the cursor on the tab and hit enter, or you can just double click on the tab with your mouse if your emulator supports hotspots. So we're going to open the z/OS monitor. Now this is the first level or the top level of the monitor, and this is the Sysplex level. And you can see RSO1 is showing up as the busiest LPAR in this Plex right now. And there's some other fields that are at this level. You can see these radio boxes at the top where there's a blue box with a little bit of an arrow inside of it. These blue boxes tell me that there is nothing to the right, nothing to the left, nothing up or down. If there were anything to the right or left, it would be either red or white, depending on whether it's an alert or whether it's just information telling you there's more to the right of that screen. So when selecting the Plex, you want to use a slash. Anytime you make a selection in E3270, we want to make a slash on the little green underscore. And this is going to give you a menu of available options. And you can look through this and see that there's a variety of different screens you can navigate to from this point, which will drill in a little bit more on different types of information available at the Sysplex level. So first, let's take a look at the service classes at a high level and see what we can see here. So here's your service classes. This is a summary view, and you can see the tab indicates I have data to the right. Again, double click with the mouse or put your cursor on that field and hit enter, and you can move to the right, and you can see there's these other columns available and worth of data. And these are all sortable. Little arrow icons indicate that they are sortable fields, and most of them are. The extended field is a similar display, but there's just more data. You're getting more into subsystem delays and other delays and other information associated with what's impacting this service class. You can get at the LPAR level, and I can search, and I can specifically see, if I sort by class name, how the service class in USS is performing on RSO1 versus RSO2, etc. Again, the white box indicates there's more data to the right, and you can scroll to the right and see what other available fields there are. You can always use the PF1 key if you don't know what something means. If I just want to know what goal importance means, I mean, that's somewhat intuitive, but if you just put your cursor in that box and you hit PF1, you're going to get an explanation on what workload manager class period importance means. And again, all these fields are going to allow for that. So the next item of interest I want to point out at the Sysplex level here is the top consumers for the Plex. So this is a different kind of display that's sort of multiple impacts on different address spaces, but it's your highest consumers and most impacted tasks in the Plex, right? We have highest consuming address spaces CPU, highest consumers of storage, in-queue conflicts, anything that's exceeding its performance index. Just a quick snapshot of things that maybe you want to take a look at the Plex level. I want to point out here that each one of these tables has the radial buttons to scroll up or down. And so this is telling me that I have more data, and I can scroll down by double clicking on the white box here. And it only affects the data in that top table, etc. And then this one can scroll down. We have more, and I'm only looking at data in this particular table. If I put my cursor anywhere in this table, I can also PF7 and PF8 and do the same thing just for that table. If I'm at the command line and I PF8, I scroll the whole screen up and down. Final thing we want to point out at the Sysplex level is just how to navigate down to the PAR overview below. So go to option 8 or S from the menu. And here we have the LPAR overview for the LPARs that are in Sysplex 03. And you can see in this case, our radio button is actually red. It's telling us not only do I have data to the right, but I've gotten an alert or an item of concern to the right. And you can scroll over and you can see that it's complaining about the I/O rate on RS02. And it's also, we've got performance indexes issues on both LPARs, and we've got a major in-queue wait lined up on RS01. So here might be a good place to point out how to dig in a little bit to the performance index miss here. We can come down here and we can issue a slash, and something that we should probably have pointed out earlier, the default for the options is going to be whatever has an S next to it. So if I were not to have made a selection, I were just to have hit enter, the address space overview is my selection. At this point, what we want to do is we want to look at service class resources. We're going to go to W off this menu, and we're going to see all the service classes, and you can see several of them are missing their performance index. So if we come down here to the STC low class, and let's take a look at what we can see here. So we can see the enclaves associated with that service class. We can scroll to the right again. We have data to the right, and we can see if there's anything here that tells us anything that's going to help us understand what's going on. And we can also come in and do a bottleneck analysis or hit enter B here. How much of it's using CPU, how much of it's waiting, how much of it's using zip. There's a lot of information here that might give us a clue why we're missing our service class. And maybe it just comes down to, some workload in this class just inappropriately assigned to the class. So the next thing we want to point out at the PAR level, again, we're going to hit a slash. And one thing I should point out again is the S for the address space overview would be my default. But I'm going to always enter a slash until I get familiar with the commands so that I can see what my options are. We're going to check out the health checker. This is just your ZOS health checker. And we've got a few where the status is warning us. It's not a critical, but it is an exception. And we want to take a look and see what options are going to be available. So we're going to tab down to the green underscore. Let's go to USS auto mount delay because we have an exception here. And let's just see what it's telling us. Health check messages. Auto delay error detected for configuration of auto mount directory /PROJ. So it's just going to tell you that it's found a condition that did not meet health checker requirements, and it's going to recommend what changes should be made. And again, this is just your ZOS health check. This is where it gets this information from. The next view I want to take a look at here is going to be the Unix System Services view. This is going to be 8 or Z under this menu. And again, you can shortcut these commands and enter them on and underscore on the previous menu once you're familiar with where you want to go. This is going to give you some insight into what you got running in the USS. The first thing of note here is that you come to this top line. If you're near slash, you can get information on the Unix kernel and a couple other things. But what we want to point out here is that you get your mount table here. Here's your mount point, and here's the associated file system. And you can see, you can scroll down through. These are sortable fields, as many of the fields here are. And here's your file system, and here's the ZFS or HFS file that's at that mount point. We come down to the dubbed address spaces, and we can get information on these address spaces and their associated Unix processes. Click P here for process overview, and you'll get the associated Unix process, and you'll get execution state, process status, etc. on that particular process. And down here is similar display from the view of the Unix process and the associated address space. Get the dubbed address space details, threads for the process details for the address space ID, and so forth. So you can drill quite a bit into your USS environment and get a look at least of how the processes and address spaces are performing, how they're tied together, and what the associated file systems and directories are. Thank you for watching part 1 of this overview of OMEGAMON Monitor for ZOS. Please watch part 2 for more features.